It started off as something small. John would leave his keys by the door, only to find them on the kitchen counter the next morning. Or he'd turn off the kitchen light before bed, only to wake up to it flickering on and off. He shrugged it off as absent-mindedness. Maybe he was just tired, distracted by work stress. But then things started happening in ways he couldn't explain. One night, John woke up standing in the hallway, his hand on the doorknob, gripping it so tightly his knuckles were white. His head pounded, and his mouth felt dry. How had he gotten there? His last memory was falling asleep on the couch while watching TV. John had never sleepwalked before. The next morning, he found the front door unlocked. A cold draft seeped into the apartment as he stared at it, trying to remember if he had forgotten to lock it before bed. But no, he was certain he had locked it, just like every night. His unease grew over the following days. He woke up in strange places, once at the dining table, another time sitting on the bathroom floor. He kept trying to tell himself it was just stress, but deep down he felt something was wrong. It didn't help that he had started hearing noises at night too. Soft tapping from the walls, the creak of the floorboards, as if someone was walking down the hallway. But whenever he checked, the apartment was empty. The night the cameras were installed was the night everything changed. John set up the cameras in each room, nervously glancing at the feed on his phone as he lay in bed. He wasn't sure what he expected to see. Maybe nothing, maybe himself wandering around in his sleep again. The thought unsettled him, but not as much as the feeling that there was something else, something just outside his perception. At 3:27 a.m., the notification buzzed. Motion detected. Living room. His heart pounded as he swiped open the camera app. The live feed showed him standing in the living room, motionless, staring straight ahead. He sat up in bed, confused and terrified. There he was, yet here he was too, fully aware and awake. His body on the screen was utterly still, except for the slow movement of his chest as he breathed. He watched himself turn his head toward the front door. "What are you doing?" he thought frantically. His hand reached for the door's lock. He could feel his pulse in his throat as he kept watching, unable to tear his eyes away. But then something happened that made his blood run cold. The door didn't open from his hand, it opened from the outside. Slowly, the door creaked open, revealing nothing but pitch blackness beyond. John's body on the screen stepped back as if welcoming something in. The camera, focused only on him, didn't show what was behind the door. But there was a distinct shift in the air, like a shadow crossed the threshold. The feed flickered, then cut to black. Panic surged through him. He bolted out of bed, rushing to the living room, his phone still clutched tightly in his hand. The front door was closed, locked just as he had left it. On the counter, sitting innocuously, was his phone, charged neatly coiled. He had left it plugged in beside his bed. John stared at it, a chill running down his spine. The silence in the room felt oppressive. Then, from somewhere behind him, he heard a soft shuffle, like someone dragging their feet across the floor. He spun around, heart racing, but the room was empty. Nothing was there, and yet he couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed him. Something had stepped into his home that night. He couldn't see it, but it could see him. John hasn't slept since. Every night he watches the feed, waiting for the door to open again.